Paperback Rocker, episode 70. Hey, this is Matt Severson, the Paperback Rocker, and I'm broadcasting from my 6x9 foot cinder block shack in the desert of northern Mexico, southern Texas. Welcome and thanks for checking out my show.
Read Black Dog, the only book that combines backmasking, a werewolf, and a Scottish Terrier.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your old friend, the Paperback Rocker, a.k.a. Matt Severson. How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing good. Well, I got cut off abruptly the last episode in mid-paragraph, but where we were in my book, Blue Whiskey, was our hero, Stanton Wheelhouse III. As you may have picked up, this is an autobiography he's written of himself, is what we're reading. But he's talking about a day in the life of a musician, being the pre-gig part of the day, the gig part of the day, and the post-gig part of the day. And I got cut off in mid-description of post-gig because of my SD card being full as I adjust a couple levels on the fly here, professional quality. All right, now it's too loud. So we are on page 86 in the hardback, and I don't know what corresponding Kindle address that would be, some long number. But hopefully you're following along. And I will now begin in the middle of 86. I'm going to reread a couple paragraphs to get us to the start of this section, because I once again couldn't pick my cutoff time last time. So before I begin, I want to mention that these books are available on Amazon or from me. Contact me. Paperbackrocker at live.com, paperbacrocker.com. These are all on YouTube as well. There's also an interview I did on a radio station when I first published my first book. That's on my YouTube channel. That's pretty fun to listen to. And also there's my music, of course, which is the running central theme to everything here at the Paperback Rocker Show. Speaking of music, I just listened to a pretty cool thing, which was the Gene Simmons produced Van Halen demo before they did their first album, which actually didn't even get them a record contract. But it's amazing. It just tells you a lot about how people really can recognize talent or not. But they even have a song on there called House of Pain, which didn't appear in their normal catalog until the 1984 album, which was their last album before they got back together with David Lee Roth. So it's a really different version on that pre-record label demo. It's real fast. It's cool. So if you're a Van Halen fan, that's probably on YouTube. And you can drop me a line and ask me where to find it. And also, I've been listening to this cool chick named Weyes Blood, Weyes, second word Blood, and I think her name is Natalie Meering or something like that. But she is an angelic voiced songstress of the Joan Baez type vibe, except she is apolitical as far as I can tell. But she's more like an elfin goddess type thing. But then she has real avant-garde music with mellotrons and stuff like that. Very, very good. And her live stuff is really good. So go on YouTube and search for Weyes Blood. Weyes. Okay. Now I will get into the book on page 86. And now we have arrived at the most dangerous hours of a musician's day, the post-gig. I could write a book on post-gig alone, but I'll self-edit to a more skeletal discussion. Good post-gigs come after good shows. The artist has been provided a dressing room and access to a shower. The artist cleans up, smokes a cigarette while reflecting on the show, then goes to the green room to greet adoring fans. After 15 minutes, the artist, who by all appearances does not want to leave, is ushered away by an apologetic road manager. The artist and road manager hop in a waiting limo to be whisked away to an exclusive celebrity-attended party or dinner at a 5-star restaurant. Good post-gigs come after bad shows. There is no dressing room. The artist is forced to remain in the sweat-soaked clothes he wore on stage. The show was bad, but only the artist thinks so. The sound in the stage monitors was off, that was all. The crowd loved it. At the back door by the bus, fans have gathered, but they are polite. As I adjust more levels. But they are polite. The artist engages them and signs autographs and takes pictures for an hour. Finally, the road manager drags the irritated artist onto the bus. The artist and his band can't sleep, which is normal after a show, so they stay up smoking reefer and working on new songs. The bus arrives at the next tour stop at 4 a.m. The exhausted musicians trudge off the bus to hotel rooms and fall into satisfied sleep. Bad post-gigs come after good shows. There is no dressing room. The musicians rush off the stage as it is overtaken by overly stimulated fans. The instruments are stolen or destroyed. The artist is ushered out a back entrance, but an angry, restless group of fans who couldn't get in the sold-out show mob him. Hands grab and rip, tearing both clothing and hair as morbid souvenirs. The road manager frantically attempts to protect his charges to no avail. Police storm in, pounding the misguided fans with nightsticks. The mob scene quickly turns into an all-out riot. Roadies pull the artist free and place him in a Lincoln town car. Fans surround the vehicle. Police clear them using tear gas, which floods into the vehicle. Meanwhile, the hardened roadies are taking months of pent-up frustration from the rigors of the road out on the unfortunate. And roadies are strong from lugging all that gear around. I don't think a description of a bad post-gig after a bad show is even necessary after that. Let me get a drink of tea. Amazingly, the previous section is the first tangential idea I have allowed myself to explore thus far. I will now return to the regularly scheduled program, which was my very first post-gig at the Thirsty Possum. As I said, I was high, and it wasn't from the Black Beauties, which found themselves unable to compete with my adrenaline. I was riding a natural wave, fueled by a tide of endorphins. During my shows, I concentrate so hard on the music and lyrics that I almost forget the crowd is there. This is especially the case when floodlights or spotlights are shining on me. All I can see is white light. Many times I've had people approach me after shows claiming I was singing directly to them when I'd never seen their face in my life. But after my show at the Thirsty Possum, I recognized the people who approached me. They weren't friends per se, but they were familiar strangers. People I'd seen up and down Bourbon Street. Locals. Most of them worked low-level service jobs like me. "Hi, I'm Jack. I'm a poet. Let me buy you a drink," said the first one. Oh. It says in a foreign accent, so let me see what I know where he's from. "Hi." "Hi, I'm..." That's too loud. Hold on a second. Check. "Hi, I'm Jack. I'm a poet. Let me buy you a drink," said the first one in a foreign accent. He looked to be somewhere between Reuben's age and mine. He was a pale-skinned Irish bloke with a scroungy ginger beard. He had on a very worn, tight gray suit. "I'm buying Stanton's next round," another guy nearer my age said. "I'm Brett. I'm a painter." He looked as healthy as a wrestler, with blue eyes and a head of blonde curls. "Brett Hunter," he said, enunciating clearly in spite of the cigarette holder clenched in his teeth. The cigarette was unlit. Before I could be further engaged by either of them, a beautiful, thin, cream-skinned young lady with auburn hair took my hand. "I'm Fiona. I'm a writer. You're going to buy me a drink." "I'll be happy to," I said. "I'll even make it myself." A man behind me tapped me on the shoulder. He was clad in black from his wingtips to his turtleneck. "My name is Stingray," he said. "You're a fabulous subject. I'd like to photograph you. Here's my card." And he was gone. All this is filtered through my memory, and it surely didn't happen as cleanly as I have recounted. There were many more who introduced themselves that night, but these are the important ones. Let me make that more clear. These are the most important ones for this autobiography. The many others were also valuable to me, as are all the people who have supported my performances and albums over the years. I never knew the names of the vast majority, but please know I appreciated every one of you. The next months were my social coming out. I spent many nights with the people I just introduced, usually in smoky living rooms, gabbing like mad under the influence of Black Betties and alcohol and sometimes reefer. Reuben was never present due to his responsibilities at the Possum, but he encouraged me to take time off to spend with my new artistic contemporaries. There were many other people flitting around, of course, but none of them are noteworthy enough to mention. Our conversations were devoid of politics, despite the growing attention young adults were paying to the workings of governments at that time. The reason is simple. There was nothing outside of our little world, which was our universe, and this universe was concerned with only one thing, art. Stingray did not hobnob with the clique, although he happily photographed us one night at a crowded table at the Possum after hours. Stingray was the most classically artistic of any of us. He had an eye for photographing people the way Ansel Adams had an eye for nature. I am the only one of our group he photographed individually. He assured me I needed images for the record I would one day make, and he was right. I think the reason Stingray never socialized with us or anybody else was to maintain the separation that unfamiliarity provided. Excuse me. He could flit about us with camera at his eye, snapping away, and he was barely noticeable. He moved stealthily. He was thin, always dressed in black, and could contort his body into whatever shape necessary to capture a shot. I must emphasize that separation I mentioned before. He didn't want to know the people he photographed other than through his camera lens. That kept him unbiased and made for the most honest portrayal of his subject. The pictures he took of me and my friends were compiled in his masterwork, Faces of Bourbon Street, along with those of many others, including the son of Faulkner. Stingray died of a morphine overdose less than a year after his book came out. Due to his solitary nature, his body was not found for a week. His was the first of many sad endings people in my life have suffered. It comes with my profession, I think. I still maintain my close relationship with Reuben through this period, primarily due to our proximity when cleaning the Possum and prepping before opening each day. I was still sleeping on his floor as well, but we didn't stay up talking like kids at camp. Most of our conversations took place over the endless washing of the glasses. Time and time again, Reuben encouraged me to make contact with my parents. I don't know why this was so important to him, but he nagged me enough that I finally broke down and wrote a letter to my sister, telling most, but not all, of where I was and what I had been doing for the past 9 months. I did not provide a return address on the envelope. Jack, the poet, the first one to introduce himself at my show, influenced me much during my tenure as his daily friend. He came from hardy Irish stock. He didn't have to tell me what his ancestors had overcome. It was written on his face and detectable in every move his body made. He was the most determined man I'd ever met. He was resolute in his conviction that he could punish wrongdoers with his poetry and beatify the good people the same way. Every word he ever wrote was absolute truth. Jack said a good poem was mankind's greatest weapon because it was limitless. I believed that when he said it. I still do. Jack used to say, "Stanton, it's a great big world and you're an insignificant piece of sand." He'd gulp a dram of Jameson and blow out a forceful breath as if he could breathe fire. Then he'd slam the glass down and say, "Have you ever had a piece of sand in your eye, Stanton?" And he'd laugh every time like it was the first time. That was his philosophy in a nutshell. Jack taught me a lot about writing effective lyrics, and there's a little bit of him in all my best ones. He killed himself in 1970 after finding out he had an inoperable brain tumor. Jack never told anyone about his diagnosis. He rowed out some distance from the coast of Ireland and shot himself. I received a letter from him weeks later. It started with the proclamation that he was going to remove his own brain tumor by experimental means and ended with the sentence, "Keep being an insignificant piece of sand, Stanton." I lost a lot of friends in the late 60s and early 70s. In those days, we tried to live every day like it was our last. Ironically, that philosophy killed many of us. Hippies live beautiful lives but die ugly deaths. Brett, the painter, was a horrible artist, although he was endlessly prolific. He went on to be one of the first successful motivational speakers, going by the name of Brett Wright. He revealed his background at his seminars. He was a fourth-string quarterback who flunked out of LSU and failed miserably as a colorblind painter. But he never stopped trying, so neither should you. And that became his message. He made $1 million selling horrible paintings and terrible motivational books at seminars. I met him years later and he said, "Stanton, your concerts are just like my seminars." "I don't have to offer free donuts to get people to attend my seminars," I said. Brett is not a bad person, but I wouldn't call him an artist. He's an actor in search of a movie. He fooled us. He fooled all of us. As for Fiona, she was nearly as bad as my sister. I went out with her a couple times, and we bantered back and forth like some couple in a 1940s movie. I didn't enjoy it much. She was an endless tease and a tremendous flirt. She wasn't a slut, though. That's why the teasing was so maddening. Fiona was one of those writers who will never let you see their work. She was insecure to the point of paranoia. I've run into a lot of writers like that over the years. I don't know what became of Fiona, and I have even less of an idea if she could spell or knew how to use a semicolon. I cut ties with her based upon advice from Reuben. He said if I was serious about a career as a musician, I should wait until I was already successful to be in a relationship. It was some of the best advice I'd ever been given. Okay, that's a good place to stop since I went a little long with the introduction talking about Van Halen and Wise Blood. Hope you enjoyed that. Drop me a line, all you robots out there who are downloading these episodes. Matt Severson, paperbackrocker@live.com. Thanks for being with me. I'll see you again soon. I think I've kind of fallen into a Wednesday, like a midweek and weekend release for each episode, or each 2 episodes for the week. Alrighty. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. See you next time.
The Paperback Rocker has signed off.